Welcome to the CART tutorial. The basic knowledge for this tutorial is JavaScript, React. You're going to use hooks in React. We're going to need to know CSS, Bootstrap 4, and we're using a Bootswatch theme, and we're also using Font Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder on my desktop, CART tutorial, and within that I'm going to create React app, an app called client to represent the client side of our application. And just let this build. Okay, so I'm going to copy paste our Font Awesome and our Bootswatch theme right here onto the index.html in our public folder. So we'll go ahead and change the title as well to something more relevant like cart. And we also made a folder named components within our source folder. Most of our files will be going in there. So let's go ahead and start the app up, and let's make sure that it ran correctly, and we'll see the animation that's defaulted by React once you create the application. Yep. All right, it's working. So we're going to take all that out. And from here, let's go ahead and put in a container just from our Bootswatch theme. And I'm going to start building columns. So let's get a row together, and I'll have 2 columns. For now, one side's going to be the cart, and the other side will be the list of our items. And we'll ultimately just be putting these together really simply to make sure that they are being rendered correctly. And then I'm going to be moving them on to the cart file, which I haven't created yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and build this out. As you can see, I've got my titling here. Let's go ahead and take out the logo. We don't need to import that from the demo. And what we need to do to build a list basically is we're just going to first off start a static list. And it's going to have an item name and price to begin with. And we'll be mapping through these items in the object to have our list. And just some random stuff, then we'll make a couple copies of it. And just make it a little legible. And one more item here. Okay, so your standard map through, we're going to utilize the list from Bootstrap, and these will be buttons. Let's map through our items. As long as there's more than one item, we'll just go ahead and have it run. Let's do the key representation for indexing in React. Let's put our names here. There you go. We are now listing all of our items, just for starters. Now, there's something about these that I just want to make a class that capitalizes, so let's get rid of all the demo CSS, clear this out, and then once I put together a capitalized class, we can append pin that to anything. We'll apply that to anything that we want. There we go. Everything's capitalized. So we're basically doing a standard kind of spreader operator here. I'm going to go ahead and add an item, passing the price and the name of the item into the function. And I also want to make sure that I have the cost. And let's build the function add item. And this is going to be our cart list once things have been selected. In fact, let's go ahead and create our CART.JS file. And we'll clear all this stuff out just to get the module up and running. Like all this stuff's going to go and be put on that file. Let's bring in your standard React. Let it know we'll be using hooks by use state. There we go. So we got our object, we got our function, the beginning of our function. Make sure this thing exports correctly. All right, we'll be importing the file to the app. Get all this HTML out of here. Represent our module. There we go. So now let's swing in, paste our HTML into the cart, and finish off what we were doing. So our cart list will be built based on adding and removing. I think it's important to start off with something very basic like temp cart so we can modify it. Let's do the spread operator here and just add on the item name and item price to our current cart list. Fairly simple here. And let's set it. Temp cart will represent it until we set it the new state. And let's go ahead and map through our cart list once an item has been added to make sure it worked. If cart list is over the length of 1 or 0, let's go ahead and map it out. Otherwise, we do nothing. And this one, they're not buttons this time, they're line items. And I'm just copying and pasting them in there. There's the cart item. And the cart item name is listed here. Looks like we got to close the brackets. I'm going to make sure the key is represented. Disabled is not going to help us. There we go. Is it working? Sure is. So it is now adding items to the cart list. Okay, let's go to calculating the cart items. We're going to go ahead and set up a pre-tax. And we'll represent the items down here with pre-tax. We'll also have the, we'll just set it up as a line item. We'll have the tax, the pre-tax and the total down there. And then from here, we're actually just going to do a for loop and go through all the prices that were in the cart list. And we'll just add them up. And then we'll set pre-tax to whatever total we got. Here we go. And start adding. Okay, so it looks like that's working. Now tax, this right now is just going to be hard coded in here at 0.8% standard kind of US sales tax. And we'll swing down and represent that. And like I said, we'll do our line items. And it's ultimately easiest just to go ahead and make the calculation right here on the fly. So we get the pre-tax and then add it to whatever the tax might end up being. And we'll try it again. It seems to be working. It's a little ugly. We got to get rid of the bullet points. Let's do it to fixed so it looks like currency. And there's also a class that's predetermined called list unstyled that will take care of those bullet points and just make it look nice. And that's just a Bootstrap concept that they already had predetermined, so you don't have to write it yourself. Let's go ahead and add to fixed to the tax and the pre-tax so it all matches the currency. And we'll also make this stand out a bit more with an alert. Okay, so we've got the alert for the total right now, and everything else has been fixed to 2, and as you can see, we have it running. Okay, let's get started with the remove function. Make sure that the cart item name is capitalized on the other side, on the right side. And then I want to make my remove icon over here, which is basically a trash can. So conveniently within the cart items, you just hit the trash can icon and it'll take that item off the itemized list. And if you're familiar with Font Awesome, this is one of the free options, little trash can. And I'm just going to get the iteration index of that one. I'm not even going to get real specific about the name because there might be the same name listed multiple times. So just what iteration through the cart item list are we going to be removing, and it just makes it easy. So I'll pass the iteration to say which item is it going to be passed on through the remove cart item function. And like I said, I always start off kind of with something generic like temp cart, and I'll be able to pass that on later. And I'm going to do my basic for loop to find out which iteration matches the one that we have decided to remove. And so as I iterate through the cart list and we match up that number, I just take it out, and I put all the other ones within to the temp cart. So basically just file through and everything goes in but the one I chose. Standard push. Okay, so now that we've basically taken out the one we want, we just push temp cart as the next cart list. Now I noticed my capitalize was giving me some trouble, so I'm just going to wrap my cart item name in a span and then give it my capitalize to fix whatever was overriding it. There we go. Everything's capitalized. Remove is working. The alert shows our total. And one thing about this is the calculation. Both of them need to use this function. So let's go ahead and share it so we don't have to write it twice. Got to write a new function called calculate. So every time I remove or add something, we have to run calculate. I mean, coincidentally, I already have it down here, so I'm just going to bring it up. And then I'm going to, of course, call it at the end of each of these functions. And temp cart will what I'll need to pass through so it knows what to calculate. And we'll start off with 0 because that's what we're going to start off with when we start calculating. And the pointer is just more or less like something that represents a button. Like those icons are actually they're just pictures. So if I add pointer, the user will assume once he rolls over and sees the pointer, it's a button, even if it's not. There we go. It's not working. Hold on. Nope. Save all. And it's working now. So those icons, as you roll over, will get pointed to like buttons and recalculate once something's been removed. Next, we'll work with logging and filtering our purchases.